Sup nerds, I'm Tom.
I'm Wes.
And I'm Aaron.
So the basic elevator pitch for this game is sort of it's all cards, Battlestar Galactica in under an hour. Is that true? Keep watching.
This is a hidden identity trader game where somebody or multiple players will be the Menace players, and they're going to be trying to make the ship run out of oxygen and kill everyone, while everyone else is going to be trying to power up the ship so we can get out of, get home. Because right now we're floating around in space with no power, running out of oxygen. What are we going to do? So we're all going to take special player powers. We're going to start with different decks based on if you're the good guys or the bad guys. Mm-hmm. And then based on the player power you choose, you'll shuffle those two different decks together, because the players each have their own type of deck. And you're going to probably pick that based on what role you're given. If you're given
agenda.
Your agenda. If you're the Menace, you might want to take something that kind of covers up the fact that you're a menace, or just play straight into it and just like, okay, well, I have a bunch of things to blow up stuff, and I'm gonna get some more, and they're gonna find out who I am.
And you can kind of be like, no, look at this. Like, I got a lot of bad cards, guys. It's not because I'm the bad guy.
Yeah. It's all about playing the other players.
It is interesting that you don't just have an agenda card. I mean, you do have an agenda card that tells you what team you're on, but you also have a deck associated with it. So they do have a way for you to shuffle those up, because you have, first of all, the game does have a really nice insert where you can store all the cards, and you can have all of the agendas with their cards stored in there as well. There's enough slots and enough room, until you put the game sideways, and then everything just goes to shit. But you have the agenda face down with the other cards on top. You have like the different piles. A 6-player game, you have 6 different piles. Everybody closes their eyes except one person shuffles them up. The second person opens their eyes. That person closes their eyes. Another person with one eyes closed will shuffle those up again, so nobody knows which one is which, and then you go and grab it. Because it's not like a deck of agenda cards you can just shuffle, And I like that they included specific things in the rules to help people with that aspect.
It would be really hard to just like pass out the agendas and be like, all right, now get the cards you need out of this box. Like, it would be too clunky. And like,
which I actually have done before, and then I was like, oh wow, yeah, that setup takes forever to do it that way.
Pass the box around, then you're like, oh, I see you're grabbing this certain card. Like, if you, I like the way they do that as well. Like, having the decks just shuffled up and then passed out, and then you pick your player power. So in this game, we're going to be playing a card or taking one of our special player actions, and then we trigger them at the end of the round. The leader will kind of like do them one at a time, just like in
Resistance. Yeah, you shuffle them up and reveal. So the game is really simple. Mm-hmm. You either play a card, draw a card, or do a special ability on your thing, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. With it being that simple, I'm really torn on my thoughts on the box, because the nice insert is really nice to keep everything divided. Every time I see a box that size, like Descent sized, Imperial Assault sized, I'm expecting like a big game. And then I played it and I was like, but where's the game? Like, where's the game at? Again, for social deduction, I think it's really great. I think it's very comparable to Resistance. I think it's probably the best game to compare it to.
But it's like a bulky one. Or it's like taking...
Is it that much bulkier?
Well, because you have a lot of more, trigger things.
It's not just
types
pass
of
or
cards.
fail.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I agree with you that I think saying it's Battlestar Galactica in an hour is the wrong tagline. It's not Battlestar Galactica. Well, no, that's what we were told. That's what we were told. But that's it's this really big game, but it takes place in an hour. I'm like, I think it's better to say it's the Resistance, but with a little bit more.
Yeah.
It really, if Battlestar Galactica is a 10 on complexity and Resistance is a 1, this is like a 3 or a 4 instead of being like a 7 or an 8. You know what I mean? The other tagline that I think is a bit deceptive too is that it's a shuffle building game. There is that shuffle building aspect that you were talking about, but it could also not matter. When I hear shuffle building, I think more like Smash Up, where you take 2 different distinct flavors of things, and when you put them together, it creates a whole new third flavor that's really unique and awesome.
And all the flavors are drastically different, not just the distribution of cards within that flavor is a little bit different.
Yeah, it's still an aspect to the game, but it's such a minor one. I don't know.
Yes and no. There are some of the heroes that have, they'll have a bunch of backstab. And then there's other heroes that have no backstab, and they're like, okay, all I do is heal, or all I do is repair, or all I, like your main thing. Because like
You're talking about the
Like
above deck action?
yeah, well no, even just like the below deck action cards you get, like
Blow deck.
below deck. Like this guy, all he has is 5 raise morale and 2 basic repair for the medical officer. So he's really good at getting us oxygen and and repairing, but he has like nothing else that like. There's some people that have like 4 or 5 different cards that go into there, so their flavor isn't as strong. So like, yes, it doesn't really change it much, but like this guy kind of does.
Well, I'm just saying that I thought that I was like, oh, okay,
more.
it's good.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot more, and it's mostly just like it's mostly just like a hiding aspect, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there's still a lot to like with this game. I know we're starting off with the negatives, but I really enjoy it. I have
I don't
a lot
know
of fun
if it's
with
even negatives. It's just that like we thought it would be more, and it
True.
wasn't as much as we thought.
So we're
I'm not saying it's bad.
You
It
saw
just-
a big box and thought one thing. I heard shuffle building and thought another thing.
We saw a big laser gun. I thought I'd get to kill people.
And you just vote them off the island and send them below deck.
The island?
Yeah, the island of the ship. The most interesting thing about everyone passing in their cards is that if there aren't enough cards based on player count, there's this rando deck, which they call EMA, which stands for Emergency Maintenance Assistant, who will add cards to the deck so that there's enough in there so that you can't completely get information on somebody. So if only
Yeah.
one person puts a card in, we can't be like, oh, let's see what you put in. Nobody else is putting cards in. Like,
Yeah.
this is going to add cards to it.
Which there's other games that had that aspect where it was like hidden information, adding cards to it, but there's always a random.
Yeah.
I liked how this is an Dawn or Dinner Party. Do you remember that
Yep.
game?
Yeah.
That
Yes.
one had it of like you always added a random. I remember thinking like, but then you can like almost never gain information that way. But the fact that it's only there to facilitate not getting too much information, and you do have a list of things, like there's always one panic. So if someone's paying real keen attention and is pretty confident that we already saw the panic from here, they can be like, oh, I bet you he put in the panic. I don't think that was Emma.
So the thing I think is really interesting is why you need Emma, and that's that you don't like in Resistance you pick your party. These people are going because I want information on them, or I think these people are going to help us succeed. In this game, everybody's included, but you can choose to abstain and draw instead. And that can get really interesting because if we suspect Tom and he goes first, then we can all abstain to try to get more information. But if Tom is the bad guy and we don't suspect, and they're like, maybe it's Tom, maybe it's Wes, and I draw, Tom could be like, I'm drawing too. There's no way I'm putting a card in there when if the bad card comes up and Wes isn't in it, now like, oh well, we don't think it's Wes anymore because the bad card came up and he had abstained. So that adds a lot of like strategy to hiding in this game.
Yeah,
that was like my favorite thing I think this game added to it.
I also think it's very tight because that card draw thing you're talking about is like, well, you could play the cards in your hand, but eventually you're going to have to draw a card. It takes your whole turn and you only draw one.
Yeah.
Like, even if you oust the Menace immediately and it's just, and like they're killed, so it's just the people playing who are, it's a co-op game essentially. It can still be kind of difficult and kind of tight. Like, did I draw the right cards? Can we play them in the right order? If I play this replicate, will it accidentally copy an Emma card?
Because all of the cards you play to gain energy also take away oxygen, it does become, like you said, if we can get rid of the Menace, it's still a survival game. We still have to get to full energy, and we're like, oh goodness, like, I need to get us more energy, but I'm losing oxygen. Hopefully somebody else can get us more oxygen, or we're just going to suffocate before we even pull off. Like, it's just a game against the board, and it could, if it took you long enough to like oust him, or he messed you guys up enough to begin with,
Yeah, and
the board could still kill us.
Yeah, your oxygen's all down here and stuff.
And
Yeah,
that's also kind of how the Menace can try to attack people by playing good cards. Like, well, all I had was backstab and these cards that killed our oxygen, and your oxygen slowly creeping down.
yeah. Even basic repair, I like how it's in the neutral, not good.
Yeah.
Because it's a 1-for-1. So
Yeah.
you can't win the game. Just keep doing that over and over again.
So at the end of the day, I thought this was a really great game. Had a lot of fun with it. If you like social deduction games, I think you'll enjoy this one. it does hit that weird itch for me though of like, if this was on my shelf next to Resistance, would I pick, like, what is the situation where I would pick this one over that one?
If you've played Resistance a bunch.
Yeah, if you've overplayed it and you need something new. But there's also, like, the social deduction market is pretty saturated at this point.
Yeah, this goes up to 8 players. Is Resistance 8?
10.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean,
But it goes down to 4, and Resistance only goes down to 5. And it does, I think this game does still work at 4 ultimately. It's definitely the more the merrier, but you could, 4 works.
And honestly, when you have a big collection, like, shelf real estate is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could have 3 social deduction games and take up less space than this one game, like, I don't know, like, I liked it. It was a really great game. I just can't decide if it was one that I would add to my collection on top of the games that I already have. When I have Resistance Avalon and Don't Mess with Cthulhu and Coup and more. I mean, even like Dead of Winter and those like bigger games where it's still there's social deduction in them. Like,
well, the what this has over those is the time. The fact that it's a much quicker game. It's probably a little bit longer than Resistance, but not much.
yeah.
You know what I mean? An 8-player versus 8-player.
So how does time come into a factor there?
No, I'm saying Dead of Winter is a much longer game.
Oh, I mean, comparing Dead of Winter is like, it has way
Apples to
more.
oranges.
But just saying, like,
Yeah.
with all my social deduction games, do I need one more?
You're right. I agree with you. We do live in the real world where that is a problem. And you're right. For me, I think it would make that... I don't have as much of a shelf issue problem as you do because I can just throw games that I live alone. I can keep them in the bathroom. I don't care. But you're right. It would make it harder for me to choose. But I do think that if you're comparing it not to the social deduction games, you probably should. But if you're comparing it to like Dead of Winter or Battlestar Galactica, then this has an advantage of saying, I love Dead of Winter, I love Battlestar Galactica, but I never have the time for it. I want to get kind of that same experience. You get a much lighter experience, but in that
an hour.
If it's one game in, one game out, yeah, you could get a much lighter but still kind of sort of the same thing experience in an hour.
I definitely agree with you guys that this is like a social deduction game that takes time. It takes an hour, and it's kind of light, but it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy like all the different player powers. I feel like there's a lot offered in this game where like Resistance and Avalon doesn't have that. There's like, I mean, there is like you can play with like
the roll cards.
The roll cards, but like they're not as flavorful. There's not like as many special actions and things going on.
This is definitely a much like
Gamer-y
not much,
game.
but it's bigger than Resistance because you have the decks. You're not just yes or no. Everyone's always in it. There's a little bit more like strategy of like, am I going to play or abstain?
Yeah, the cards trigger in different ways. There's like timing issues, like the replicate. The next card revealed does not replicate, copy its effects. Well, which one's going to cut? You know?
One negative could be that you can get eliminated from the game. Like, if you get shot and, take enough wounds. It is interesting that the wounds hurt everyone in a way. Like, some of them can hurt us all. Mm-hmm. When it's your turn, things happen.
Radiation thing?
Yeah. So, having those wounds, can make it where you need to have somebody that can heal. It just, I don't know. You have to have like a well-balanced crew to actually survive the game, especially if somebody, as the Menace, is, they're about to be ousted, so they just start taking their revenge. Or if everyone happens to get decks that have like lots of brawling in there, where we're going to get in fights anyways, and people are going to take wounds, then, you have to have something to negate all these bad things that are happening. I don't know, it just feels like more of a game where you have to cooperate with and use your powers to help each other. Like there's people that can help everyone draw cards. So like, I'm tired of you wasting your time, wasting a whole turn drawing. So I'm gonna spend an oxygen, and you're gonna draw a card, I'm gonna draw a card, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that's interesting. That it adds a little more to it. Makes it more of a game that like feels like a game, not just like, okay, yes, I vote. Just because of my alliance, I vote yes, or I vote no on this mission passing. Like, there's more strategy in it.
Yeah, if you're looking for more social deduction games, I definitely recommend this one.
Yeah.
Or if like your buddy has Resistance and your other buddy has Avalon and you want to get one for your collection,
get the bigger one and be like, look how big one is.
It's a great game, and honestly, the more we talk about it, the more I'm like, it is different. I do like it. I want to play. I wouldn't get rid of it. Like if one of you wanted to keep it at your house, I wouldn't be like, I need my own copy. But if you guys are both like, I don't want it, I definitely wouldn't get rid of it either. You know, so it's a decision you have to make.
That's a good way to put it. That's a lot more relevant to our understanding.
But to you guys, if you don't know somebody who has this, you need to get yourself a copy.
I want
We'll have
this
a
game
link
in my life.
in the description box down below.
And while you're down there buying stuff from the links and whatnot, you're clicking on stuff, you should also click on the like and the subscribe and the bell and the click all notifications, because if you do all those things, then you'll
Never be bored.
Oh, I thought you were going to do it too. Figure good.